Hi everyone, John here from Three Worlds Martial Arts, and I wanted to talk about belts and belt tests and why I think not only do belts matter, but they're also important in the student's overall skill development. Everything I'm going to say from here forward is all in context of an ideal martial arts world where the school is being led by a hardworking, dedicated instructor who's committed to the student's progress. And the students are hardworking, dedicated students who are committed to their own progress. So they're being taught properly and they're doing what's expected of them. So this is the ideal world, not where belts are given for any reason other than merit, not as student retention tools, which you don't have to do. The biggest student retention tool is teach so well and have your students make so much progress that they would rather come to your school than do anything else, because your competition is not the school down the street. Your competition is them just going home after a long day at work and sitting down and being comfortable. So these are in no particular order. One of the things that the belts should be is an indicator of skill, right? It's an indicator of skill. Where are you on this scale of skill? So when you're a white belt, there's the expectations. You're an intermediate level student, there's the expectations. You're a black belt, there's the expectations. So first of all, it should be an indicator of skill and knowledge. Now here's how it's useful. It's a way of teaching your art in sections. Like imagine if you were on your first day of first grade and they gave you a book and it was 8 feet thick and they said, okay, read this and I'll see you in 12 years. How well would you really know that? As hard as you tried, how well would you know it? Chances are you'd have to really do a lot of cramming before that, right? Test on the whole book. But what if you had a dedicated instructor who would teach you a chapter and then test you on that chapter, certify you to move to the next chapter, and you did it all the way up until the end of the book. And then you took a test on the whole thing, right? Just that's your metaphor for your black belt test. How much better of a black belt would you be? Wouldn't you be really ready for that test? And wouldn't you be more proud of yourself for having been so prepared, right? And even feel more bonded to the school for all the help that they gave. So teaching this in sections is really a way of making the students learn, right? They really learn it better when you break it down into sections. Now with that it comes with expectations. So the students know that the performance for their first belt test is not going to cut it for their fifth test, and especially not for their brown belt, black belt test, or especially beyond black belt. So rather, there's expectations on them, not just of their performance, but also their commitment. So when the students are coming to class, they're working very hard because they know that at this date, when they have eligibility, you might call upon them to test. And you're going to have to demonstrate your skill to them. And that's not only going to help you raise your own standards, but it's going to build your self-confidence. Because a lot of people are really afraid of public speaking or public performance. And for a lot of people, taking your first belt test is a way to get through that, because you go out there and you take your belt test in front of all these people and you were nervous, but you did it anyway. And you did a great job because you worked so hard and your instructor worked with you so hard. Your confidence is boosted, you're mentally tougher, you're not so easily intimidated by that, public performance. I mean, that's valuable. Some people would give anything just to get over that fear. And this is one way the students can get over it in your martial arts class. And it makes them mentally tougher. If anybody tries to attack them, they can focus and not fold. Talk about black belts, probably the biggest demographic for complacency that needs belt tests is black belts. I believe in formal testing from first dan up until you're too old to take belt tests anymore. And here's the reason why. It keeps the black belts focused. It keeps them growing their skill levels, and it keeps them active in the art. So for example, you have a student and he makes black belt and a little time goes by, you call them into the office and you say, congratulations, you did a great job, I'm proud of you. Now, this is your eligibility year as far as time at grade. And here are my expectations of you. And here is the material that I want you to do. And this is how I want you to do it. So the student already knows that you have expectations, that in 2 years, they'll be eligible as far as time at grade is concerned. So what do you have to do? You have to show up and work hard. I mean, how bad would you feel if, 2 years rolled by and you weren't ready at all because you weren't training as hard as you should have been, versus because your teacher put some expectations on you, you not only maintained, but you grew, right? So you go out there, you take that second Dan test, and you do a fantastic job, and you grow as a martial artist. And the beginners watching the black belts, especially the instructors, take formal belt testing. It sets an excellent example for what the martial arts should be, right? Because a teacher is a guide, not a master, right? A teacher is a person that walks ahead of the student or beside the student on this path of martial arts. So when they see you doing the same things that you want to see them do, not only does it set a great example, but it also shows that you believe in what you teach, right? You're practicing what you're preaching. All these things that you tell their students actually mean something to you. So you grow, your school grows, your students grow, the martial arts as a whole grows, and this all kind of begins with raising standards, but the standards connected to a system of study and an exam to follow. So I believe if we did that, the martial arts all over would be a better thing, where sometimes when we're not using the belt system anymore, it's too hard to stay focused. And you can make progress without a belt system. I just think you can make better progress with it. And there's different kinds of martial arts too. You have combat sports where there's no belts involved whatsoever, right? And that's fine. You can make a lot of progress with that. But if you want to learn like a martial art, forms, weapons, any, deeply faceted martial art, then you're going to need a belt system to help the student learn it. Now, another thing with students and testing and expectations is, if you had clear testing expectations for everybody, especially black belts, you no longer have to promote anyone that you don't want to promote, because here's the criteria, here's the expectations, here's the eligibility date. You either train and live up to the expectations, or you choose not to train, you don't live up to the expectations, your peers are eligible, they'll test, they'll move up, and you won't. Keeps the student on their toes. It builds pride in being a black belt. It takes the politics of belt promotions right out of your hands, because they either fulfill the criteria or they do not fulfill the criteria. But the belt system cannot be lost. We can't look at it like something that doesn't matter, because it should, right? It should. Think about what being a black belt used to mean. I'll just nutshell this. Being a black belt used to mean, aside from the fighting, that you were an exceptional person that did something that's so challenging most people couldn't do it or were not willing to do it. That's what it used to mean, and it can mean that again, but it starts with the individual instructor of just embracing the belt system, but using it not as a student retention tool, but a student development tool, so that they can become good black belts and then continue to grow in skill as they go through the Dan ranks. And if you're doing it too, you're going to set a great example, and your students are going to just feel even closer to you, because you're walking the same path that you're trying to lead them along right now. So that's it. That's just my 2 cents on belts and belt testing. So thank you for listening, and especially if you continue to listen until the end.